Why aren't we created equally? Why aren't human beings created equally? Because if you look at the various, humans on Earth, we are all created differently. In a physical sense as well. Uh, in regards to our status as well, some people can be very poor, struggling in life. Others can have a very wealthy life. Some can be leaders, some can attain very high positions. Others can, be struggling, striving to even find food. This is the reality. Some can, be born very healthy. Others can have some issues, with their health or even with their limbs. It's possible. So why is this, they ask, if God is all just, when you think about it, why does he allow this as well? Or why does he create people like that? Now, there are a number of ways that we can address this topic. But first of all, it depends on who's asking the question. We should start with that, If the question is coming from disbelievers, I would respond to it in a different way, because that is one of the arguments that disbelievers use, atheists use against religion. Because as I mentioned it in many places before, there is no argument for atheism, because it's impossible to disprove God. Whether it's scientifically, whether it's philosophically or theologically, it is not possible to disprove God. For this reason, they try to look for other arguments. And one of the arguments they use is, if God is all good, why is there evil suffering on earth? And even the most famous atheists use this. Very popular people like Richard Dawkins, they all use this, And throughout history, some very famous atheist philosophers used it as well. And they say, if the God is all good, why is there evil and suffering? Now, from my perspective, when I look at it from a theological perspective, also from a logical perspective, a person that does not believe that God exists does not have the right to question this. They don't have the right, because it will be paradoxical. Why would it be paradoxical? Because you are blaming a being whom you think doesn't exist for suffering and evil on earth. How could you blame God, whom, according to you, doesn't exist, and say he is responsible for this suffering? That doesn't make sense. So it is paradoxical, coming from them. But they usually put if at the beginning of their questions, if God exists, so leave that door open a bit, so leave it for possibilities. So if we look at it from a Islamic theological perspective, maybe for believers as well, this is a valid argument. The first thing we got to realize is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Lord, the Creator, he is all compassionate. There's no doubt about that. He is all merciful. But he is also Malikil Mulk. I think this is one of the first things that people need to realize. Malikil Mulk means he is the owner of wealth. He is the owner of everything, possessor of everything, because he is the creator of everything. And when we say this, it includes our own bodies as well and our own soul as well. Everything belongs to him. So in regards to if wealth belongs to someone, that person, and I'm just giving an example, analogy, that person has the right to dispose of it as he or she wishes. You cannot say to a person who is on wealth, spending, his money or whatever it is, you're not allowed to spend it. Like, why are you doing it this way? That person will say, it's my wealth. What's it to you? It is my wealth. So when we look at the topic from that perspective, right from the beginning, we have to realize that we are his wealth, we are his creation. He can dispose of his wealth as he wishes or as he wills. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we cannot come up with an argument, say, why are you giving that person more and why are you giving this person less? That would be illogical. And usually I use an analogy for this too. It's a simple analogy, but it's a fun analogy. That's what I think too. If someone were to walk into this room right now, a billionaire, very famous billionaire, and said to us, "Look, I'm feeling very generous today, and I'm going to write checks for everyone in this room." And he takes his checkbook out and he starts writing checks for all of us, one by one. And he starts from the right, for example. He says, "There you go, $1 million for you." Next person, "There you go, $100,000 for you." Next person, 500,000 for you. And then he comes to me, he says, "Here, $100 for you." All right. Now, would I have the right to say to him, "What are you doing? This is injustice. It is not fair. Why did you give that person 1 million and gave me only 100?" The person will say, "What are you talking about? This is my money. You did not earn it. Did you work for it? No. Did you earn it in some way? No. You're getting it for free. So you cannot tell me what to do with my own wealth." So wealth belongs to Allah. We cannot, God Almighty, we cannot tell him what to do with his own wealth. Another important issue here is, if there wasn't so much diversity, you look at the alternatives, all right? When you suggest a scenario, you must look at the alternatives. What if everyone was equal in the world? Everyone same height, same face, same looks, same weight, all right? Identical, same wealth, all right? Think about it. If everyone in the world was wealthy, what would happen to the workforce? How could we produce things? How could people benefit from things? There is not really equality when you think about it. So there has to be different people doing different things for there to be balance on earth, for there to be excitement too. Otherwise everything will be monotonous. Everyone is equal. They even look the same. Because if you want true equality, even in looks, they have to be same. Otherwise, you would complain, "Why is he more better looking than this one?" So, has to be perfectly equal in every aspect. And then that life is not life. You wouldn't want to live such a life. Everyone is, exactly the same. Everyone is at the same time. No, even when we talk about, I remember many years ago, when I was overseas in Turkey, there were, people who were in the socialist mind or communist mind, I should say. And they used to always push for equality, equality, equality. And I used to say to them, think about this. The most perfect functioning system, when we talk about, systems that function perfectly, the best example we use is clock, isn't it? We say it works like clock. It is the perfect example we give. But when you look at a clock, does the arms of the clock work equally? No. Yeah. The one that shows the seconds keeps on running. It takes full time. Always in a dash. And then you have the other one only every minute. And then you have the other one only once an hour it moves. So if the arm that is running all the time said, this is not fair, I want equality, we should all be moving at the same pace, that clock is not functioning anymore perfectly. It is a reality. And you can give an example from the human body too. We have, organs on the outside, we have organs in the inside of our bodies. Our heart works constantly, 24/7. There is no rest for the heart. Heart cannot say, "Oh, I'm sick of this, I want to rest a bit." Not possible. But our limbs, our arms, hands, legs, they need rest. If they don't rest, we'll be very tired. Yeah. What if the internal organs said the same thing? That's not fair. That's not equality. We should be functioning like they do. We need a rest too. You're dead. The system is perfect when different organs, different members do different works. That's the reality. Furthermore, which is one more thing about this question, which is very, very significant, when you look at justice, the term justice, only from this world perspective, you will never resolve the issue. It is impossible. You cannot get true justice here. You will never get true justice here. Because there are many examples we can give from history. There are people who killed millions of people. As a result, they only lost their own lives. Justice served? No, justice is not served. So you can never establish true justice here. You can only do your best. Another reality is you have to accept there's life after death, where there will be true justice, where no one gets away with anything. Then the whole picture becomes, more visible. Otherwise, if you limited justice to this temporal world, well, you will never find justice here in a true sense, because there will always be bias, because it's human justice. But even in regards to the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, that's the way He created the world, because we are in a world of testing. الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. I've created death and life so that you may be tested, to see which one of you is best in conduct. So He created us to test us. For a testing to occur, we need to be at different levels. We need to have different tests as well. We need to experience life in a different ways as well, because we are all created differently. So this is the way Allah's justice occur on earth. When I thought about this, something came to my mind. It's very interesting, and this in the Seljukian, I think, history or Ottoman history, there is a character called Nasreddin Hoca. It's very famous. He's a Hoca, Imam, but he's very good at answering people. Straight away. He has this surprising answers too. Very witty. They say that during the time of Timur, so it's during the Ottoman era, this occurred apparently, or it may be just a story, I don't know. Timur, the Mongolian king, who took over some of the parts of the Anatolia, also many of the Muslim villages as well. And one day he called Nasreddin Hoca and he gave him a bag full of walnuts. Huge bags of walnuts, and he said, "Go and distribute it in your village." Timur Lenk. So he took the bags. He came to his village. He gathered everyone together. He said, "All people, do you want me to distribute this according to the justice of Allah or according to the just human justice?" They said, "Distribute it according to the justice of Allah. That's what we want." He said, "Okay, then." He emptied the bags in the air like this. He goes, "Grab what you can." And people started jumping on it. Some got a handful, some could only get one. All right. And then they were complaining. They said, what have you done? He said, "You asked me to distribute it as the justice of Allah." He said, "This is how nature works." He said, "Look at the animal kingdom, He said, "If you asked me to distribute it as a human justice, I would have counted how many of you. I would have divided the nuns into your numbers and gave you that amount." So, although it's a joke, but the reality is there, hidden. There is a hidden reality is there, because this is how this world works. It is a world of struggle. We are being tested. So in order to be tested, some of us will be tested with wealth. Some of us will be tested with health. Some of us will be tested with the family. Some of us will be tested with our work. So we will be tested in different ways. But just because some person in some part of the world is suffering more than us, for example, they are starving or they have a bit worse conditions, less fortunate, it doesn't mean that their test is harder. That's another reality. It could really mean that our test is more difficult. Because being comfortable is a bigger test. Comfort can take you away from God. And it's a bigger risk. And it can put your eternity into jeopardy. So the main objective here is to attain that eternity, attain that life after death, which means we need to be patient in this world. I think this analogy belongs to Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. He says, world is like a stage where everyone must play a role. And I think it's a very good thing, analogy. The world is like a stage, like a theater stage. And Allah Almighty has given us different roles, you know, male, female, from different nations, doctor, laborer. He gave us different roles. The important thing is to play our role in the best way we can. And we call this ihsan. In Islam, it's called ihsan. Ihsan means doing whatever you are doing in the most excellent way. From a spiritual perspective, our noble prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, he defined ihsan as worshipping Allah as if though you see him. Even if you don't see him, knowing that he sees you at all times. But the literal definition of the term, ihsan, is doing something in the most excellent way. And this is what is required of believers. Doesn't matter if it's your work, if you're studying, if you're doing something else, you should try to do it as the best way you can. So connecting it with the example that I gave, if Allah assigned us certain roles in this life, we should be fulfilling that duty or that role as the best way we can with ihsan. And that is why sometimes you see in Hollywood movies, all right, when they do the Oscars, they give Oscars to the best actors. They don't give Oscars to the actor who played a wealthy person or a king. They give it to the actor who played his role in the best way. Maybe he played as person struggling on the streets. It doesn't matter. It is important to fulfill our duty in this world because the world is temporal. It is fleeting. It passes very quickly. So life is very quick. It passes incredibly quickly. And grave is there. It's approaching us very quickly as well. So instead of, talking about things like, is this justice? Is Allah doing here justice here? No one can be more just than Allah. He is adli mutlak. And if we have these emotions of justice, compassion, mercy, where do they come from in the first place? Who can be more merciful than the one who gives mercy to you? When you think about it. And I always compare this, people who make this argument to this analogy again. I say, when the sun shines, sunlight reflects on all transparent objects. Imagine a little piece of glass on the ground. The sun reflects on it. You see a little tiny sun appear in it, yeah, on the reflection. Now imagine that piece of glass saying, I am the origin of this light. The sun doesn't have enough light. Questioning the sun's light. You are only reflecting it. Mercy, compassion, justice is similar. He is the owner of justice. If he didn't give this feeling to us, we wouldn't be just at all. We wouldn't even have the feeling of justice or mercy. So we have to understand it is really ridiculous, I should say, to question the being who is the origin of compassion, origin of justice, origin of mercy, while he gave you only a finite measure of it. Finite. We only have very finite measure of his names. Many of his names, we have them in very finite measures. This is what, the verse when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he breathed his spirit into Adam. It's a verse. Some people take this as literally. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have a spirit. You cannot compare Allah to anything. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ. The Quran says he cannot be compared to anything. So you don't take this literally. What Allah did to Adam or human, Adam means human too, is he breathed, not in a physical way, but he placed or embedded some of his names in a finite measure to humans. so that we can make that comparison. We can say, I am compassionate. How compassionate is he? I am merciful. How merciful is he? I am just. How just is he? It is for that reason all of these qualities were given to this, not so that we can question him, hasha wa kalla.